You can also just the most obvious example at the population level has to do with what we have done to our niche with respect to milk and what impacts it has had on us, even down to the level of our genomes. So some populations have had access to animals that effectively become food dispensers, right? We induce them to produce milk for a longer period than they would, milk designed for their offspring, of course. And we upregulate the enzymes that allow us to take apart the sugars in that milk, which are unique. Enzymes that we produce as children, because of course we're mammals and we naturally have milk as children, but we do not, or our ancestors prior to animal husbandry would not have produced that enzyme in adulthood because it would have had no value. So by realizing or by figuring out how to utilize mammals as living food sources, we have had to alter our physiology and our behavior. But if you then take this and you say, well, dairy products are healthy foods, and you deliver them to people whose ancestors did not have a dairy tradition, then they are confronted with sugars for which they, in adulthood, do not have the ability to easily upregulate the enzymes that would allow them to utilize those sugars. And so they have lactose intolerance, right? Is the optimal human diet one that includes dairy or not? And the answer is it has a lot to do with what population you came from.
And in fact, it is the majority of people who do not persist in having lactase, the sugar that breaks down lactose, as adults. So, we argue in the book, we're not the first to do it, that this idea of, oh, are you lactose intolerant? Actually, that question should be flipped on the head. The expectation is that as a human, you're lactose intolerant. And it's only a few of us, who happen to come from dairying cultures from our ancestors, sort of Western European dairying cultures, the Saharan Bedouin, a few others that are likely to be able to continue to really easily digest milk and other dairy as adults.
But it becomes even more interesting because at the population level, you have those with a dairy tradition and those without, and those with a dairy tradition have the ability to upregulate lactase, the enzyme. But it is also sensitive to individual consuming of dairy products. So if you don't eat dairy as an adult, those enzymes get downregulated. And so there's population level variation, individual level variation,